my mother is Kuwaiti and my father is Cameroonian. And I was told that that was the wrong way around. That my parents must have had a blasphemic relationship. Like my mom was a little harlot in the street and she found herself an African man and felt some things she wasn't supposed to, and they did what they did and had all of us. And the thought of that being the beginning of your existence really messes with your head. My mother is Black Arab, Afro-Arab. She came from a family that wasn't well known. She had no like massive dowry, or someone demanding anything, and there were 2 men in her family. The name was dying out. Nothing of importance. Her mother didn't know how old she was or where she came from. No archive, no nothing, you know? And so my mom didn't have very much value for herself, because on the social meter, all of these things, you know, like knowing where you're from and your blood is pure and all of this rhetoric and all these things that were conditioned in our region is like built into her. And then when she's there trying to tally up where she measures, there's nothing. So in terms of like who will love her, who will look for her, who finds her attractive, she didn't feel very much. Except for this African man who was like, basically like, you know, you're a queen, you're beautiful. She found value in that relationship. She didn't even know how to explain that to me, and I think maybe she thought that maybe in my naivety I might get past those realizations that would inevitably scar me in some way. Maybe if she put me in a bubble with expatriates and I don't have to so much engage with society, our culture, that I'd be okay. But it just ended up being like a cycle, you know? And so very early on I was in school, and I just started to notice, you know, all the girls would be brushing, leaving their hair out, and, you know, doing the helicopter and henna and all of this stuff. And okay, fine, I could put henna on, whatever, but my hair didn't move in the same way. And like, you know, I was trying to find a way to find my equivalent of that. And then I remember that's when it started getting painful to like look in the mirror, because I tried to cut myself a fringe and it just wouldn't stay down. And I was like, did you? I was like, and my mom's like, what did you do? Oh my God, no, I stuck with that fringe. And I thought I looked cute, like, because I would just hold it down for a long time. And then I would kind of see the shadow of it and think it was like hanging down, but really it was just like that in my periphery. God, man. Anyway, so then I would go to school and like, you know, the boys would make fun of me, and it was hard stuff, you know. And at the time, anyone was able to say whatever they wanted to you. So, you know, boys being like, yeah, kiss shit, if they shot it, you know, like, just like little boys being little shits, and, you know, people being able to say, you know, call you all kinds of names, you know, call you fahem, call you derogatory things, and learning those words in the playground yard, you know. And then I saw a dynamic between like the boys and the girls, you know, like the fancying starting to happen. The girls were fancying girls, the boys were fancying boys, the girls were fancying boys. I just wasn't included. And thinking that maybe my half Kuwaitiness is actually distorting my idea of who I am. And I remember people being like, oh, you speak Arabic? And I'm like, well, yeah, you know that my mom's half Kuwaiti. And they'd be like, yeah, but we didn't speak. So it was like, they still didn't consider me one of them. It was like, no. Even Islam class, man, the teachers would be like, yeah, but you're not Muslim. I'd be like, no, I am, you know? It was constantly like, just looking at me and deciding well, you can't be one of us. It was such a world of assumption, no investigation. And I continue to be othered, you know? Like when they're putting together like a collection of, you know, Kuwaiti artists or, you know, artists on the rise or whatever is going on, it's like, are not included in that. And I can think of other parallels that exist, say, like that exact dynamic exists. You know, when we look at what's happening with cops and, you know, black men in America or here or, you know, many places really, it's the same story. But at the time I hadn't even seen it as that, because God, they'll make you think, you know, you're the only one, you know, as a tactic, and unfortunately when you're conditioned from so long, it becomes norm that you don't even question it. It's weird because sometimes when I see Arabs around and about, I get really excited because I'm like, I just want to hear the Arabic, just so I can converse, you know, just so I can like share. But there's also like a fear as well, because it's just like, okay, then we're gonna get into the reality and the dynamics are gonna set in. And every time, like when I first came, I get really excited, and then I remember I shaved my head and whatever, and I walked into NBK Bank, National Bank of Kuwait, and they asked me if I was lost.
Oh wow!
And so now, one of the things that is almost a reaction without even a thought is the perfume. Imagine the perfume makes me nauseous because of the feeling that I associate with it, but it's also nostalgic. What?
Yep.
That's not fair. So it's like, home. Oh, wait a second. You know what I mean? You know, when I was first writing the piece, I was saying to my friend, oh my God, you know, first I'm Arab, and then I'm queer, and then I'm, you know, like saying, how can I represent all of these things without getting lost in the sauce, you know? And she was like, but you exist. So yeah, you can put it, whatever exists, you can put it on stage. It's not complicated, you know? It's just a fully dimensional person, and people need to know that people like you exist.
What's wrong? Later. She's been begging me to give her money for her nose surgery. We were at a supermarket the other day, and this boy called out, "Hey, ya al-abda!" And she thinks changing her noses will fix that. Shifto, this is the problem. How on earth does a young boy know that word? Well, are still Abid? Yeah, but we're not all Abid. How on earth is he meant to know the difference, huh? From our amazing education system? They don't care. If they cared, they would have had an official date. But we're not all free. Well, they brought most of them. Us here. Some of them were here to begin with. And some of us wonder, doesn't that make us as Arab as the rest? Free here, wala here.
To be honest, when I came to London, I was super surprised that I was being accepted into the Arab world here, the diaspora, because I never thought I'd be seen as that. But it was like, oh my God, you see me, and I can be all these different things. I don't need to simplify my existence in order to represent it in a certain form, you know? Some people felt seen, and I felt seen by people, and then it gave me the green light that what I was doing, what I was following within myself was something to dig deeper into. I do have a straight me, which is hilarious, because I talk about my husband as if he's like the trophy and like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, and my husband and I, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? And it happens before you have time to catch it, you know? Yeah, like the longer I'm away, the longer I can be audacious with who I was gonna say grown to be, but always have been, actually. You can trace this back to like back in the day. It wasn't something that just like popped up. And I found these pockets and people were brave and shared stories that were like, oh, by the way, so like, you know, this summer I met this girl and it's like, oh my God, what? And then what happened? And then you like exchange or like, you know, you have these spaces, and in that way, like I got more courageous. And then love makes you more courageous. When you feel something for someone and it like hits you, boom, and you're like, you either leap or you decide to stand back. And then there's a twinge with that too, because you have the audacity to be yourself. And you clock that reaction that they have understood that you are being yourself. And they don't know, and I say they, but a lot of people don't know what to do with that. But I think recently I've decided that's okay. You don't have to know what to do with it. I know what to do with it. You know? And then you trust yourself and you trust your instincts, or that's what happened to me anyway. And I was like, okay, so I have this voice. How do I keep making it come out? How do I encourage it? How do I grow it? How do I craft it? How do I sculpt it? How do I refine it? And then you do, and then you go back into the theater and you present, and then you hear, and then that process keeps going on.
I want to show you something.
I just wanted to say that the wrong queens come in all shapes and sizes and colors. Thank you.